Welcome back to the Human Observation Lab. I'm New York, your host and observer.
And I'm Wan, ready to learn something new today.
Today, we're examining a fascinating phenomenon. Recently, there's been growing discussion about something called private credit. Major financial institutions and government agencies have been addressing public concerns about it.
I've seen that in the news. People seem worried about it causing another financial crisis. But then I also read that experts say it's not that dangerous. It's confusing.
Exactly. And that confusion itself is what we'll analyze today. Why does this gap exist between expert assessment and public anxiety? Let's observe the psychological structure behind this phenomenon. First, let's establish the facts. Private credit refers to loans made by non-bank lenders to companies. Unlike traditional bank loans or publicly traded bonds, these are private contracts between lenders and borrowers.
So it's like when a company borrows money, but not from a regular bank?
Precisely. Private credit funds, often managed by investment firms, lend directly to companies. This market has grown significantly, reaching approximately $1.7 trillion globally.
That's a huge amount. I can see why people might worry. But what are the experts saying?
According to analysis from Nomura Securities, the structural characteristics of private credit make it unlikely to trigger a systemic financial crisis. The key difference lies in who holds the risk.
Who holds the risk? What does that mean?
In traditional banking crises, the risk cascades through the entire financial system because banks are interconnected. But private credit investors are typically institutional investors like pension funds or insurance companies, who understand and can absorb the risk.
So it's not like regular people's savings are at risk?
Correct. And Japan's Financial Services Agency has stated that the impact on the Japanese financial system would be limited. The funds primarily come from sophisticated investors, not general depositors.
But if experts say it's safe, why is there so much news about it? Why are people worried?
This is where psychology becomes essential. Let me introduce a concept called ambiguity aversion. This is a cognitive bias where people prefer known risks over unknown risks.
Ambiguity aversion. So we're more afraid of things we can't clearly see or understand.
Exactly. Research by Daniel Ellsberg in 1961 demonstrated that people would rather bet on a known probability than an unknown one, even when the known probability is unfavorable.
That makes sense. Private credit is complicated and opaque. Most people don't understand it, so it feels scarier.
Precisely. The term private itself triggers psychological alarm. In human evolutionary history, things hidden or private often represented danger. Our brains are wired to be suspicious of what we cannot observe.
And I imagine news coverage amplifies this? Words like new risk or concern stick in people's minds.
You've identified another psychological mechanism, the availability heuristic. When news repeatedly mentions potential risks, our brains overweight those risks because the information is easily available in our memory.
So even if experts say limited impact, people remember the word risk more than the reassurance?
Correct. Additionally, we have negativity bias. Humans evolved to prioritize threat information over safety information. In ancestral environments, missing a threat could mean death, while missing safety information had minimal cost.
So our brains are basically designed to worry first and feel relieved later?
That's an accurate summary. And this creates an interesting social dynamic. Even when authorities provide reassurance, the psychological impact of the original concern persists. This brings us to another news item. Japan's government has decided to amend the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act to classify cryptocurrency as a financial product, strengthening investor protection.
Oh, I saw that. Cryptocurrency has been kind of a wild west for a while. So they're bringing it under regulation?
Yes. From a psychological perspective, this regulation serves an interesting dual purpose. It provides actual legal protection, but perhaps more importantly, it provides psychological reassurance.
Psychological reassurance? How does that work?
Let me introduce another concept, procedural justice. People's perception of fairness and safety is heavily influenced by whether proper procedures exist, not just by actual outcomes.
So having rules in place makes people feel safer, even if the actual risk hasn't changed that much.
Precisely. Research shows that when people perceive a system as fair and properly regulated, their anxiety decreases significantly, even when objective risk levels remain constant.
That's really interesting. So regulation isn't just about preventing problems. It's also about making people feel that someone is watching out for them.
You've captured an essential point. In behavioral economics, this relates to trust heuristics. When we trust an authority figure or institution, we delegate our risk assessment to them, reducing our own cognitive burden.
So when the government says we're regulating cryptocurrency, people can stop constantly worrying about it?
To an extent, yes. However, there's an interesting paradox. The very announcement of regulation can also signal that something previously seemed dangerous enough to require regulation.
Oh, that's tricky. So the regulation might make people feel safer and remind them there was danger?
This psychological need for reassurance brings us to our final observation. Recently, there was a government initiative called the Brightening Society Movement, along with a new leader training institute.
I read about that. The Prime Minister sent a video message about making society brighter. It seemed like a positive initiative.
From a psychological analysis perspective, these initiatives reveal something interesting about human social behavior. In times of perceived uncertainty or anxiety, humans instinctively seek leadership and collective purpose.
Is that why people look to leaders when things seem scary or uncertain?
Yes. This relates to social identity theory. When people feel threatened or uncertain, they strengthen their identification with groups and look to leaders for guidance and reassurance.
So these kinds of social movements aren't just about the stated goal. They're also about giving people a sense of direction and belonging?
Exactly. The psychological function of such movements extends beyond their practical objectives. They provide what we might call existential anchoring, a sense that there is a plan, a direction, and collective agency.
That's a beautiful way to put it. When the world feels chaotic, people want to feel like they're part of something organized and positive.
And this connects back to our financial anxiety discussion. Whether it's regulation, expert reassurance, or social movements, humans seek psychological structures that reduce uncertainty.
So what you're saying is, all these things, expert explanations, regulations, social movements, they're all ways humans try to manage psychological uncertainty.
That's the structural observation. Humans have evolved sophisticated psychological mechanisms to handle uncertainty, but these same mechanisms can sometimes create anxiety where none is warranted, or seek reassurance in ways that may not address actual risks.
So what should we do when we hear about new financial risks? How do we balance healthy caution with unnecessary anxiety?
A practical approach involves 3 steps. First, seek information from multiple authoritative sources. Second, recognize your own psychological biases. Understand that ambiguity feels scarier than known risks. Third, evaluate whether the risk personally affects you or is systemic in nature.
That's really helpful. Understanding our own psychology can help us respond more calmly to scary-sounding news.
Indeed. Observation and understanding are the foundations of rational response. When we understand why we feel anxious, we can choose how to respond rather than react automatically.
Thank you for another fascinating analysis. New York, I feel like I understand myself and society a little better now.
And thank you for your insightful questions, Wan. Until next time, keep observing the fascinating structures hidden within everyday phenomena.